At 3:33 a.m., November 23, 2025, 5 shadows rose into the freezing sky over Pokrovsk. Not birds, not recon drones, weapons, each carrying enough explosive power to erase a building from existence. And in exactly 15 minutes, 2 Russian strongholds would vanish from the map. Before we dive into this insane operation, listen carefully. If you love cinematic breakdowns of real combat missions, if you want more stories the world isn't supposed to see, hit like, comment below, and subscribe right now. It keeps this channel alive, and it helps us beat the algorithm that hates independent creators. Now, let's go back to the night everything went to hell. At 3:35 sharp, the operator triggered the sequence. The first FP2 roared off its rail, a black beast carrying 105 kilograms of raw explosive violence. 20 seconds later, the second launched. Then a third, 5 in total. The operators didn't stay to watch. They followed the only rule of this war. If you stay still, you die. Within seconds, they were speeding down dirt roads with their headlights off, while above them, death carved a perfect arc into Russian territory. But the genius of the mission wasn't the drones themselves. It was something far more sinister: synchronization. The drones targeting the ammunition depots flew straight and fast, but the one assigned to the sniper tower took a longer route. Not to avoid defenses, but to match time. Both targets had to die in the exact same second. Those snipers felt like gods up there, untouchable, watching Ukrainian positions from the heights. But they forgot the only rule gravity respects in wartime. The higher you climb, the harder the fall when someone blows out the floor beneath you. But while the operators fled, Russian radars began to scream. SORC systems detected the launches instantly. On their screens, the FP2s glowed like Christmas trees. Computers calculated interception paths. Russian commanders smiled. They thought detection meant victory. But they were about to learn a brutal truth. Russia built its air defenses to stop $3 million cruise missiles, not $5,000 garage-built kamikaze drones. Fire a $2 million interceptor. Stupid. Let the drone hit a depot worth tens of millions. Even worse, every option meant losing. And the FP2 had a final insult prepared. Because in the brutal jamming environment of Pokrovsk, GPS is useless, GLONASS is useless, everything is blind. But the FP2 doesn't care. It navigates using optical contrast, missile-grade technology on a homemade airframe. The drone watches the ground, compares shapes to preloaded maps, and guides itself like a blind predator sniffing blood. Russian electronic warfare couldn't stop it. And Russia still had no idea the real nightmare was coming. Minutes before the FP2s crossed deeper into Russian territory, Ukraine launched something cheap and brilliant. Decoy drones, foam bodies, aluminum reflectors, and deliberate fake transmissions. They climbed to 2,500 meters and screamed into the Russian sky, "Look at me!" And Russia did. A Russian Su-35 locked onto the decoys instantly. Visual contact, engaging. He fired a $1 million R-77 missile at a flying piece of styrofoam. And while Russia celebrated the kill, the real attack package slipped beneath the tree line, carving a 15-kilometer breach through the most defended airspace in eastern Ukraine. But now, the FP2S were entering the most dangerous part of the mission. Ahead of them stood a monster, the Buk M3 Viking. Its radar mast rose 15 meters above. The Forest, designed specifically to hunt low-flying cruise missiles. 5 drones, a snack, normally. But Ukrainian operators had one last trick left: Soviet infrastructure. A massive 330-kilowatt transmission line. Those metal towers created an electromagnetic storm so chaotic that the Buk's radar had to blind itself with filters just to function. And in that blind spot, 5 bombs rode the edge of death, 1 meter from electrical vaporization, 1 meter from radar exposure. The Buk ignored the contacts because its own software classified them as electrical noise. It had no idea half a ton of explosives was slipping right past its face. But victory was brief. Ahead lay a region Russia had turned into a digital slaughterhouse, where instead of missiles, they used radio waves to break the brains of incoming machines. That's why, 10 kilometers from the target, the FP-2S did something suicidal. They cut their satellite link. Voluntarily, the drones went deaf, blind, and alone, switching to backup navigation. Visual odometry. The drone's ventral camera scanned the ground at 180 kilometers per hour. It wasn't looking for coordinates anymore. It was looking for shapes. The region of Pokrovsk has a fingerprint, the Terracons, black conical mountains of mining waste rising from the flat steppe like dead pyramids. They don't move, they don't emit heat, and they cannot be spoofed electronically. The drone compared the silhouette of the Chronoir-Miskaya Terracon with its internal map. 99% match. It locked its position using a mountain of garbage as a lighthouse. And with that, the final run began. At 3:45 a.m., the security lights of the Rybinsky military complex and the sniper tower appeared on the horizon. But between the drones and their targets, something woke up. Camouflaged between hangars stood the Pantsir S-1. Operators call it the Beast, a hybrid system with hypersonic missiles and twin 30mm autocannons. Its tracking radar detected the 5 intruders emerging from the darkness at 4 kilometers. Here, war becomes algebra. The Pantsir can track 20 targets, but can only guide missiles against 4 at the same time. Ukraine sent 5, and they were coming in wide, each separated by 20 degrees. The Russian commander had to choose, in a single heartbeat, which drone he would let live. He chose the 4 fastest. 4 57 S-6 missiles erupted from their tubes, accelerating to 1,300 meters per second. There is no evasive maneuver for a prop-driven drone against that. It's like trying to dodge a bullet with a tractor. 2 FP-2s were vaporized instantly, reduced to clouds of carbon fiber, and fire 3 kilometers from the target. But their sacrifice bought time. While the missiles streaked through the sky, the remaining 3 drones closed the distance. They descended below the 1 kilometer mark, entering the Pantsir's dead zone. The Russian operator switched to guns. The twin 20A-38M cannons roared to life, vomiting 5,000 rounds per minute. Tracer fire carved a wall of tungsten and flame across the night. The targeting computer predicted the lead drone's path perfectly, but the FP-2's crude aerodynamics saved it. At full speed, the drone shook violently, wobbling from turbulence. The Pantsir's predictive algorithm aimed for where it should be, but the drone's unstable airframe turned mathematics into chaos. The burst missed by centimeters. The second drone wasn't so lucky. 30mm round sliced off its left wing. It spiraled into the asphalt and detonated prematurely. 2 remained, 1 heading for the depot, 1 heading for the sniper tower. They broke through the 200-meter barrier. The Pantsir tried lowering its guns, but safety protocols locked the system. Firing any lower would destroy its own supply trucks. The survivors slipped through the firewall, unstoppable. But Russia had one last line of defense. Something cruel. Something that didn't need radar. Sitting beside the entrance was the 2 S-38 Derivatsia PVO, a prototype combat vehicle armed with programmable 57mm smart ammunition. The system measured distance with a laser, programmed each shell mid-flight, and detonated them in front of targets by counting their own rotations. It was designed to kill drones with surgical precision. The cannon elevated, calculations began, and then the impossible happened. From the Derivatsia's perspective, the drone aligned perfectly with the industrial tower, where Russia's elite sniper unit was still positioned. The system's own safety protocols worked against it. The engineers had programmed an absolute rule: no friendly fire risk. If the dispersion cone threatened Russian personnel, the gun would refuse to shoot. And that's exactly what it did. It froze. The drone slipped past untouched, heading straight for the sniper nest. At 3:48 a.m., the first FP2 entered the third floor of the tower. There was no impact in the traditional sense. There was annihilation. The 105-kilogram thermobaric warhead created 100 psi of overpressure inside a confined space. Lungs didn't rupture. They collapsed instantly. Brick walls didn't crack. They turned to dust. The entire tower swelled like a concrete balloon before imploding on itself, burying the elite unit under 1,000 tons of rubble. 3 seconds later, the second drone hit the jackpot. The ammunition depot. The initial blast was massive, but what followed was biblical. Propellant charges ignited. A 200-meter column of fire rose into the night, turning the steppe into daylight. The shockwave derailed empty train cars 50 meters away. The logistics hub of the Vostok Group ceased to exist. And 20 kilometers away, in a silent van, 3 exhausted Ukrainian operators shut down their monitors, rubbed their burning eyes, and started the engine. Before sunrise, they would be gone. Mission accomplished. Out.